Okay, today's video talking about landing pages here. Do I need a landing page for my PPC campaigns for every product or service that I offer? So I wanted to actually make this because, first of all, people don't a lot of times even think they need a lot of pages on their website to cover all the stuff that they offer, which is kind of the first mistake people make. But secondly, with that, because it's expensive to make lots and time consuming to make a lot of pages, they don't make a page for every product or service they offer, or they don't actually do it very well. It's just like a little bit of text, very generic stuff you can find on the web, and that's it. And they don't know how much they're really hampering the potential that they can have on any PPC campaign that they run, or just their website in general. Got a lot of business, salute to you. If you don't have a lot of business, or you're paying way too much for what in terms of what your ratio of sales to marketing spend is, well, you should, and you're not actually have spent lots and lots of time to make lots of good content on your site that cover most of all the products and services you have, to the extent that you're actually trying to think about what the consumer has in their mind of questions and answering those on the page, because that's the actual level you need to be at if you want to fully maximize what money you can make with that site. Then you should check this system out. I'm going to give you excellent information on how to actually implement this the right way, and in a way that's not going to take you forever. You could start with the stuff that's going to get you the most money, the fastest, and the easiest, and maybe just not only do everything, pages for everything, you could just do a few pages and make a whole lot more money. But you'll understand how to actually implement the page, where it should be implemented, and how much results you can provide, because I also talked about actual case studies here of how much you can make making a landing page for respectively all the products and services that you offer, or at least on the few that you do actually offer it. And my style of way to do things is to do it on one page, take the money you make from one, do it on another. Once you have a few, pay somebody else to continue the rest of it. But it doesn't matter if you're selling a product, it doesn't matter if you're selling a service, your B2B company, your B2C company. What I'm going to give you here is going to be a turnkey way for you to make more money from your PPC campaigns. Of course, you can also make money from your organic traffic and some other things that you're doing to drive traffic in. But since I'm a PPC guy here, I'm going to talk about PPC, and this is where I have actual experience doing the strategy, so I can tell you how well it specifically works for PPC. So to answer your question, when I'm saying landing page here, we're talking about not just a page on your site, which I don't consider a landing page. Like if you're a dermatologist and you have a page on your site about dermabrasion service that you offer, that page in and itself is not even what I consider a landing page itself. Even though you have a page set up for that, it becomes a landing page when you've created that page just for a certain type of traffic to convert. What converts well on a Google search campaign ad click on Google search is going to be different than what you have for a Google display network campaign, which you have for a Facebook campaign. People have different levels of need for information and attention span, and if you're trying to make one page for everything, nothing's going to work that great. So respectively, you don't have to, it gets overwhelming to do all this stuff I'm mentioning on these videos. So what you do is you just start with one, make money, and then go to two, and so forth. Take it as far as you want. Most people start out with Google search campaigns, and that's what I recommend. So respectively, you start with Google search ads. If you're not making the money you want on Google search ads, then you start making a dedicated landing page for where you're taking people to, instead of the boring old default text page that you're putting on there that it doesn't really tell the person anything about your unique process and why they should buy that one specifically. So not just a page on your site, but the page to convert certain types of traffic. In this case, we're talking about PPC, how to make money with PPC, and taking a page that may already list something on information on your site about a particular service or product you have and enhancing it. So do you need a landing page on your site for every product or service? Respectively, yes, but there there's another way to think about this, and the reason why I made this video is so that you don't think about things so, cut and dry like that. Do I need to take every page I have and make a landing page equivalent for it? That certainly, in some rare cases, could be the extent in which you do things. But as I mentioned, I'm trying to make you as much money as you can, the quickest, easiest, the fastest here starting out. Because why not? Why would you not do that? And instead of just going and making a landing page for every page on your site that you're technically sending traffic to, you offer 20 services right now, you have 20 pages, so you're going to remake those 20 pages to do well for converting Google traffic, and you're going to then get a bump. What I'm going to do instead is something different to be able to make even more money and even faster and with less resources. Instead of a page for each service, which generally speaking, by the way, before I go further here, if you take that, going back to the dermatologist example, you do acne, dermabrasion service. You take that page, you make it a landing page that's good for converting Google search traffic, which is going to be a page that right away lets for the people who don't want a lot of information convert right away, but the people that want to make sure they're doing a little bit of research, that you offer before and afters and explain why your process is different down the page so they can get it if they want it. That's the general formula for Google search traffic. You're going to get a 2 times difference in conversion rate from that than the general page that most people are going to have on their site, which is not what I would call it. I call it aggressive. You want Google PPC campaign in general, those pages you take people to are aggressive. Why? Because you have to get to the point quick. If you don't get to the point quick, you're not going to convert as well. And so when somebody's, particularly on Google search traffic, if they already know what they want, take them to a page that doesn't get to the point like within 2 seconds in terms of them knowing how to respond and why, you're going to lose money from that. You're going to cut into the potential that particular keyword can deliver and source of traffic can deliver to your business. So you just simply upgrade these pages. You haven't even done this yet. You're running a search campaign, then you're going to want to upgrade to landing pages, and you'll probably double your conversion rates just by doing that, and not have to get to whatever pages you're sending traffic to. Just upgrade it the way that I said. You're probably going to double your conversion rate without anything else. Respectively, though, and this goes for whether you're offering a service or a product, what's more effective for your time-wise, and to get more money sooner and faster with less effort, is to have a page for each application/use instead. So in other words, if I offer, going back to the dermatologist example, if I offer acne, just as a secondary service, acne care or whatever, so that you have a really bad problem with acne, or you're taking your kid there, you're looking for a doctor in your area that does this, you'll make more money faster and quicker. Instead of just making a page for acne and sending all the acne traffic there and there's a saying in marketing, if you try to appeal, or in business, if you try to appeal to everybody, you won't appeal to nobody. In the PPC, it's the same. If you're trying to send all these people that are looking for acne stuff to a page regarding that, you will do a little bit better, right? But it's not near the potential as optimizing a page for certain things that that your users need, and starting there. First of all, if they're looking for not acne care, but basically back acne doctors, instead of that in itself as a traffic source will convert double what an acne dermatologist, that keyword by itself, would convert. But particularly when you take the back acne keyword, which you are only going to care about that if it drives so much traffic, but you can easily see when you're spending money on Google ads how much traffic getting one term brings in. But when you make a specialized page just for that term, your conversion rates are out of the stratosphere. And so for respectively, it's not as satisfying as when making one page and then everything works better, which it will to some degree. You're much better off time and money wise finding a keyword that gets almost the same traffic as acne dermatologist, making a special page for that, and instead of making upwards of 2x difference, you can make up to a 5x difference. And then you do that, you make several pages. But the beauty about that kind of a strategy is you don't have to make that much changes from one page to another. So if you're just trying to make it for all the different types of acne that people go to the dermatologist for, let's say there's 20 types and 20 keywords that kind of represent those, or you group together keywords into 20 groups like that for, blackheads or whatever it is. And you could take the exact same acne page that you started out with, you just make the acne page, you use that to convert better anybody looking for an acne dermatologist. But you take that page and just make small tweaks, change the headline, change a little bit of the text to talk about back acne and maybe a picture or two in a pre-designated spot, and then you have a page, instead of making you $1,000 a year, it's now making you $5,000 on the same exact traffic source and opportunity there that you have, and respectively, it makes more sense to go after the stuff that's going to have a higher magnitude change in terms of how much business it's going to bring in per dollar spent first, as long as you know how to prioritize which opportunities to go after, than to just go after the one, the main opportunity, or where most people are searching by itself and calling it good, even though you technically can do that. Why? Because it's one step into actually sub-specializing and creating pages for certain applications or use cases that people are looking for information for. But you get the general picture of what's going on. Respectively, the people that are looking for a back acne doctor, there's not going to be any other page for that. So if you create a page for that, you're the only one. Therefore, that's why you're going to make basically 5 times as much, because you have a page for that instead of sending them to the general acne page by itself. So it's like shooting fish in a barrel, pretty much. And what you do to be able to decide, though, what page you're going to make, and respectively, not to say, like, again, you can't, if you don't have a landing page at all that you're using on your campaigns, you can make one just for acne in that case I gave you. But right away, you're going to jump to looking at what they call the search term data in your ad account, and you're going to sort by descending conversions or traffic, probably by the number of clicks or even further impressions, and you're just going to see what's getting searched the most. You're going to find the top search term related to acne that gets searched the most, that's got where the person's looking for something specific to acne, but not just general typing in acne doctor, it's back acne doctor. And you find that's the one second most searched the most. Well, I'm going to take my page and I'm going to make a page for that. And like I said, you're going to come up with a strategy. This is something I do at our firm, which makes us efficient, and what you should do. You're going to test making a template. You're going to change one image and 2 blocks of text on this page about acne to make it a back acne page. You're going to see how much change it's going to make. You're going to mentally make note of that, and then you're going to hire somebody to make it for the other 20 terms. And all you got to do is just follow that same model each time, and then each page is going to make astronomically more for that particular subterm under acne than it did, originally, if you will. And if it wasn't obvious, and just to take a step back here, the back acne term I mentioned, if you go from no landing page to having a landing page about acne, that you'll get a bump on back acne terms then in that case, and it'll convert a little bit better than acne doctor once you have an upgraded landing page for that. But the fact that you create a custom page for back acne doctor, instead of getting, let's say your return was 3-to-1 on acne doctor Chicago, back acne doctor Chicago, sending people to the same page as you made for acne doctor Chicago, you might get a 4 to 5-to-1. But if you actually go ahead and do what I'm telling you here, which is a little hard to wrap your head around, I understand this, and you create a page specifically for back acne doctor Chicago, and you change the headline, and you write a paragraph, even it could be just one body paragraph of text that's near the top of the page saying how you have a specific you understand back acne, and you have a specified process that you've kind of invented or learned to make the process better, and you have a picture of a guy with back acne on there, so that right when they hit the page they see that picture and they know not to click back. Instead of making a 4.5-to-1 return on that term, you're going to get like an 11-to-1 return. And that kind of efficiency gain is where you make a lot of money in PPC. It's just a lot of data entry work, but when you're instantly making 2 to 3 times as much money from the same exact term, same exact traffic, same exact money invested to get that click to your site in the first place, it becomes absolutely irrelevant how much it cost you to have somebody on your team designated to take exactly what you did and make a page for all the rest of the active terms and then go on to other categories. So, because at the end of the day, you're going to be making 2 to 3 times more respectively on your entire PPC account, and instead of making 500 grand a year from PPC, you're now making 1.5 million. And all it took was probably a couple hundred hours, maybe respectively. Even if it took 500 hours of data entry and time to do this, break that down, $20 an hour. Okay, it took you $10,000. Well, now you're making, $1 million more a year. So it's like, if you just got to do the math. This is if you need to justify it to yourself, that's how you obviously do it. But these gains are no joke, and I'm not over embellishing this. So going full circle here, yes, you will make a landing page for each product or service that you offer, but the more important thing is that you make landing pages for what people are searching for. And then you don't have to get super sophisticated. You just being a little bit more sophisticated than everybody else is willing to do and actually have a page for back acne versus what nobody else is willing to do, you're going to have a return on traffic that's way above everybody else. And you should realistically start there. You can have your page that you upgrade just for acne, but the more important thing is that you go the one step further and you make pages based upon the parent page there that you had for acne, and so you cover all those specific searches respectively. This is why offline brick and mortar businesses, as they call it, the retail apocalypse is happening. Because if you go into a store, it's not just me who knows this. People are just intentionally being selfish and they're going for short-term gains. You go into the store and you can't talk to anybody that has any knowledge about what the products you're buying. Why wouldn't you just go online? There is no. If I can get it cheaper online and I'm going to get no support in the store, then yes, I can get it a little quicker. But now I only have to wait 2 days on Amazon. Of course, I'm not going to worry about going into the store. There's a trend in general where people are actually providing more information on the internet, and you can see that actually becoming true with the amount of the sophistication searches people are making on Google. People are typing in longer and longer search terms, and there's about 20% more total search terms in the library of search terms people search at any given time every year, because people are finding that there's people willing to put more content out there for more, and so therefore people know they can find more specific content and they're looking for it. And the people ahead of this curve providing the extra content for people who want to see information about back acne. They don't want to just go to an acne page, call and hope, go in and talk to the doctor and have no clue what they're getting into. You provide that, you're going to be the one who gets all the returns. But respectively, because people are willing to do more, provide more information online, the way that I talked to you about it just here, they're even less and less likely to do anything in the real world, or at least not until they actually want to go ahead and buy. So they're going. In other words, they're going to decide who they're going to buy either way online. They may go buy in the real world, but this is not going to stop. People are going to want more information about what they're searching for, and the people that do provide it are going to be able to get most. They're going to be the ones that are going to be the 500-pound gorilla 5-10 years down the road. So you can kind of already get with the picture here, or not. And it won't happen overnight. It's just a slow process. This has been going on for a while. If you went back 10 years ago, if you wanted a dermatologist, you basically got sent to a generic page. And now there's landing pages, but now there's more specific landing pages. So you get my point here. That's the whole kind of deal of why these returns are here and what's going on. Now I'm going to get into some examples of how much this stuff works and in what specific circumstances, so you could apply this to your own business and get excited about doing it for your own business. Had a client who provided an EMF protection piece of a product that helps block EMF from products, cell phones, stuff like that you're using, and that you put on there. And respectively, they had a product for like headphones or whatever, headphones, earbuds, whatever. It's all in that general category. So that a page that we were sending all that related traffic to right from the start. No specific landing page, but just a good e-commerce page for that. And sometimes, by the way, you can get away with no landing page if you're in a niche where there's very little to no competition, which there was here. So we didn't have a landing page per se, but we had to send all that traffic to one page. So when somebody typed in EMF protection for headphones, and we sent them to the page, that got about a 3-to-1 return. When they typed in EMF protection for AirPods, we sent them to that same page. It got about the same return. A little bit more, but respectively about the same. Like I talked about, it would be normally, because if you don't have the specialized page, you don't get the jump. But once you do have the specialized page, you get a huge jump. So all we did in this particular circumstance is we changed the headline, like I mentioned, is the main thing you do there. And instead of the picture being by default there of the default, headphones that are there, there's a picture of AirPods, and then there's a paragraph or two of text that talk about AirPods specifically. You jump from a 3-to-1 return to a 10-to-1 return on that term. And yes, it's going to take a bunch of work to do it for each type of headphones that you have, but think about the money that you're going to be making when you have to have no more ad spend, and then from now on, you got 3 times the amount of revenue coming in on this from that. I mean, that's huge. That's a total game changer for your business. And like I said, don't rely on an ad agency to give you the strategy, because they're not going to give you this stuff by default, because it takes a lot of time and it cuts into their margins. And when you respectively, if you can do it, then you hire, realistically for stuff like this, you hire your own person. You personally test it out, and then you give it to somebody and you tell them to do the same thing for all the other terms. And that's what I do. Technically, without give myself a plug, you contact us, we'll do that for you, and you don't have to worry about it at all. But you can easily do this for yourself, because you see the returns you can get from doing this. There's our first example of a product. The second example of a product was for a barn paint. So like a barn where you put hay or farm equipment and stuff like that. You have to paint the barn once in a while if it's a wood barn. Technically, we'll get into any more details there. Barn paint, the term by itself had a 4-to-1 average return. When somebody typed in, remember I told you before, what you're going to do is you're going to look through the search terms, and you're going to find highly searched terms that aren't related to the base product itself, and then you're going to create a landing page just for that term to capitalize on the higher potential return you could get by having a dedicated page for that higher search term. Oil-based barn paint converted at 11-to-1 return, just by having a headline that said oil-based paint and a paragraph or two that talks about how our oil-based paint is good, with the good quality oil-based paint. So they basically, we help them what it's about is you're helping them more easily find what they're looking for. And then if it was just a headline, then you help them find it easier. But if there was any question as to whether or not somebody else has an oil-based paint that talks about it specifically like that, then you have a paragraph or two of good genuine sales copy that says why your oil-based paint is the best. So you're going to get the rest of the return that you're going to get. And it makes the person realize that you're not playing a trick on them. You don't have some software that just switches the headline, which even though they don't know this inherently, that people do these tricks, they know that people pull gimmicks to make stuff happen with software. It's just a simple point. They want to know who's genuine. And if they don't think they want to believe that you're being genuine. So the more content you have on there that's dedicated to the term, the more they're going to believe that you are being genuine, that you do have a product that's perfect for what their exact need is, and then you get the return accordingly. But respectively, you could have a whole page that's dedicated to targeting and telling the person who has the need for an oil-based barn paint and get a even larger return, let's just say. Most of all you have to do to get almost all of the return, and the sweet spot between how much effort you put in and the cost of all that extra effort and where the return lies, is just simply a dedicated headline, a couple paragraphs of text, and maybe an additional image that's relevant to the term. That is it. If you want to go a bit further down the page, if it's a longer page, you have instead of where it says barn paint, you say oil-based barn paint. Kind of like what keyword stuffing used to be 10 years ago when people did that for SEO. But you don't ever, speaking of, I don't want people to get the wrong idea here, you don't ever do anything that looks tacky or unnatural. If people sniff out that you're just doing this with software or something, it's going to hurt you more than it helps you. So don't try to use software. Don't be thinking, maybe I could get software to do that. Don't do that. Spend the time to make a genuine page for this term, or don't do it at all. And I don't want you to fail and come back to me and say it didn't work. I'm telling you, for it to work, you need to make it you can come up with a general formula. That's absolutely 100% true. Just don't be writing the text using software. There's plenty of return in it, handwriting the text, and it'll be able to employ somebody by doing that. There's no reason not to do this. Yes, you won't make quite as much, but that little extra that you have to pay that person, it's irrelevant. So you get the general idea. There's a second example that shows you kind of explosive returns you can get doing this for yourself. Going further here, I'll get into more about why this works and a few other examples. If you swap the headline, as I mentioned before, on the landing page, you can do several things to make this page custom. But if all you do is just switch the headline, which isn't going to give the person the full feeling that you really do have a product that is specialized and capable to work for their exact need, like I talked about, you'll have a 40%, roughly 40% increase in your conversion rate just from the headline. So if that's all you want to do to start to test this and check out that I'm accurate in what I'm saying here, you can do that. If you go ahead and do the one custom image and a couple paragraphs of text, at least, if not a few other, switching out of the terms down lower in the page, you get another 40 to 150% more, like clockwork, more conversion rate on top of what you had for that term, what it would naturally do. So, respectively, when I mentioned here before, part of the jump here is just the oil-based paint. Oil-based barn paint converts a little bit better naturally than barn paint, but most of this is coming from the fact that we had the custom page. So just reinforcing that. And when it comes to the actual boost and what the long tail term, beyond what it would naturally convert better in the first place, you have another 40 to 150%, very conservatively, just for making the page different. Excluding the headline, if you just make the headline different, it's about a 40% gain in conversion rate just from that. Keep in mind, if Google's quality score system or Bing's quality score system, if you're doing search engine advertising, then they have the quality score system, and you having a higher click-through rate, which you're going to get because part of all this, what you're going to do in terms of implementation is you're going to take that search term that you're going to make a page for that you found gets high searches. You're going to take that term, you're going to make a separate ad group just for that term, that search term, which will become, and then you're going to have that search term as a keyword. You can come up with a few variants that are like that keyword, but basically have the same thing. You may order it a little bit different. For instance, I would have in that same ad group, if you find that you have best oil-based barn paint and oil-based barn paint, I'm going to put, to take that back, I'm actually probably going to have each of those in their own separate ad groups. Just if it's hard. I'm trying to think of a good example here. If it's so close that it's almost trivial, then I'll have it in the same ad group. Oil-based in barn paint. Like if it was that, you might be able to put that in the same ad group. But respectively, to get the whole shebang on this huge, amount of return, like I showed you here, you're going to have a separate ad group that's dedicated to targeting that highly searched or frequently searched search term. You have it as a keyword in that ad group by itself. So the ad copy can say right in the headline, oil-based barn paint. So they know right away when they see it versus the other ads that are there. They're clicking on that ad because you gave them exactly what they wanted. They get to your page, it's customized. It seems like what the ad matches up with the page perfectly, that they aren't BSing around, and therefore you get your return. So respectively, that's the actual implementation method. And with all of that, while you're going through the course of that, your click-through rate on your ad is going to be roughly double what it would be by default, having that search term in with in this case, so that oil-based barn paint triggers for barn paint, in which you don't have oil-based barn paint in the ad, you get a doubling of the click-through rate. So not only will you, in other words, get a 40% increase here and 40 to 150% increase here with the full changing of the page, not just the headline, you're going to have twice as many potential clicks if you haven't done the one keyword per ad group thing that I talk about frequently in my videos, but you're going to get a reduction in your cost per click, not just from the increase in click-through rate, which you will get, but also a reduction in cost per click from the increase in conversion rate you will get. So if you convert 2 to 3 times better, your landing page experience score, which is one component of your overall quality score that you have, landing page experience is about 1/3 of the quality score algorithm that determines how much you're paying per click. So you could potentially pay 1/3 less per click, you're going to get even larger gains, okay, which is part of where this comes in, just so that you know the full where everything comes in. But there's a raw direct increase in conversion rate, and then there's a increase in ROI, which comes from that conversion rate increase, plus reduction in cost per click by increasing your quality scores. But very conservatively, like clockwork, you do what I'm mentioning, just what I told you here, you're going to get a 2 to 3x increase in your ROI on those terms each time that you do it all day long. So if you do it for one term, prove it works, basically cost you nothing to try this out once, with the potential that you're going to make at least twice as much, if not 3 times as much from your entire account once this is done. See it works, give it to somebody, roll it out, and once you know that it's worked for one term, you're going to know it basically works roughly the same for all the rest of the terms. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, but that's telling you this is very consistent. So anyway, with all that said, here's some other examples in case you're doing services and you're saying to yourself, Corey, but this is products you're talking about. It works for B2B service, works for B2C service, works for B2B products, B2C products, doesn't matter. The evidence of that is, I guess, a couple of different examples here. Talking about B2C services, chiropractic clinic. For a chiropractic clinic, we had done this. I looked in the results that we had. Back chiro services, if they search for that, which is already pretty specific, they had a 7-to-1 return. But by the time we added a dedicated landing page for the different types of back problems that people had, like a slip disc, which is where you have the cartilage in your back, it deteriorates, and it's a very specific problem, and you obviously need surgery for that. But if slip disc chiro, somebody who specifically knows how to do chiropractic services for somebody that has that kind of a problem, you have that in you make a page just for that, and in that case, we're just changing the headline, we're just changing a little bit of the text, and we're changing one of the images there. It shows like an image of like a slip disc. So the idea is, in order to get a high conversion rate, the first thing you got to do is when they get to the page, within a couple seconds, they got to know if they're at the right place. And that relevant image there goes a long, long way for doing that. And then they're going to read your couple paragraphs about slip discs and that you have a great service for people who have the slip disc. Then they're sold. They're not leaving, you got them. Then they got a 17.5-to-1 return by having that slip disc chiro in there. And that would actually be, I put this in curly brackets here under slip disc because all the different back problems you have, you're going to make a page for each one. Because obviously once you know it works for one, it'll work for the rest. We knew it would work for the rest right away, but I'm saying in your perspective spot where you're at, you would do that. And then you would do once you've done all that, you can go to neck. Instead of having a page for a neck chiropractic, if you don't have one already, then you would make a page for just all neck traffic, and then you would make a page for each type of neck problem. Somebody who types in, instead of neck, thoracic, vertebrae, chiropractic services, that kind of thing, then you have a page just for them. And yes, you'll probably end up with a few hundred pages doing this. And it may be, some people don't like the fact that they have to logistically manage all these pages when it's done, both in terms of getting in the way of finding other pages that are the main pages that you find in the main navigation of the site. And a point about that, you don't have these pages in the main navigation of your site. They're only pages you find through your PPC campaigns. They can click the home button, and they can often have a navigation to get you back to the main site. That's absolutely fine. Do that most of the time. But they don't have a way to get from the main site to your landing pages. But the fact that they go into their admin area of their site and there's all these other pages there, and they can't quickly find the main important pages of the site, which are the ones that are on the main navigation through their site. They don't like that. Or if I have to change the phone number, now I got to change it on 500 pages. I mean, it's up to you. I'm not twisting your arm here saying you have to do it or not do it, but you want to make 3 times as much money. You have to manage a few more pages. You got to do a little bit more. It's just the way it is. But for me, just as a quick tip, I would use a landing page software. And I would say don't screw around just don't try to save a little bit of money using these less tried and true systems. I would just go with Unbounce for this. Unbounce is not going to break. All your pages that you have are going to be on a separate system so that your current admin won't accidentally delete or have anything get in the way for them. And they're just there. Respectively, I use Unbounce because it's easy to make pages on the fly and clone them in the way that I was talking about there. And there's no programming involved, that kind of thing. And there's other benefits, but the main thing is that they're locked in. If our campaign, even if a page would go down for a little bit, we would lose money. I don't want anybody messing with those pages. I know I'm not going to mess with those pages, and I know because it's on a separate system with a login just for those pages, nobody else is either. So anyway, you get the gist. I'm going to go on to my another example in the service space here, which was in the sales training space, sales training company. They help your sales staff make more sales, be more efficient, get a higher conversion rate on leads coming in. They had a term, phone sales training, so just as it sounds, anybody who needs training with the phone. With that, the return was not good. It's a very competitive space, obviously, because it's a big money niche. It's only a 2-to-1 return on that term, but not enough to even worry about. So I have to talk about in my videos that if you're in a situation where you're not making enough, first you set up tracking so you know when you've done what you've done, at least even if you fail, now you know what you have to do to fix it in terms of how much more results you need, perhaps what part of what you did to cut out in terms of male, female, device level, state level. But for me, I'm just going to say to what level, how drastic of an upgrade you need to get to where you need to be. So instead of screwing around with a little change, which might be faster, maybe you are close to where you need, so you're not going to screw around with big stuff. You make a small change, boom, you're good to go, you're profitable. In this case, you obviously needed a huge monumental improvement on what you had. And so we broke out this very strategy, what I'm talking about here, and we had a page just for cold calling sales training, because that was a highly searched term within phone sales training. And we had a page that just talked about when you're doing cold calling, there's specific things, there's a system that works that we've developed for cold calling that does better. Now you've, instead of being one of many, you're the only one. That's what your goal with all this is, by the way. Be the only one. Instead of a 2-to-1 return, they got a 10.8-to-1 return. So obviously, that made the client very happy. But all day long, you could see a similarity in what difference this makes, regardless of what business you're in. And if I have never tried this and haven't gotten a really good return. Let's just put it that way. Sometimes we don't need to use it. I don't use it every single time, but when we do want to use it, and particularly, it's a matter of how long the client sticks around, just to be completely honest, because we do all the base work first, and if we're looking for another thing to stack on our results, we'll move on to this. And then, that may be what you do as well. If you're making money now, then it can be a tool in your toolbox. If you're not making money, it can be your way to really get over the hurdle, like we said with the last example. But eventually, every campaign, my opinion is that you should have this. Whether you do it now, whether you do it, several years from now, that's, different for each situation. But so anyway, that kind of spells out what this. Do you need a landing page for every product or service that you have, respectively? Yes, but it goes. There's a little bit further than that in terms of understanding and to make sure that you are going to get your money's worth when you actually do this for your company. I have a lot of other videos on this channel about other PPC money-making strategies. If you haven't seen any of them before, you should check them out, definitely. I have a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how to build PPC campaigns that are guaranteed to work for our clients. If you want to see how those are built and done, you can maybe go there because you are interested in information along those lines. Apart from that, if you have any questions or comments, anything you think I should have covered and didn't, leave a comment down below. I get back to every single person that leaves me a comment on this channel within a day or two. Apart from that, hope you enjoyed. See you on the next one. Hope you make a lot of money from this strategy.